Hello everyone! Welcome back to Ana Dialogue, the dialogue on analog music reproduction. And indeed today we are going to focus on analog media. Actually, we are going to take a deep dive in AAA Records, 100% analog records. Almost as a handbook, all the different aspects you need to know. Are you ready? Let's jump in. Okay guys, so this video was actually requested from one of you guys, one of the subscribers, who asked general information regarding AAA records, because a lot of times we give them for granted, like everyone knows what we're talking about and what they imply and how they are made and where to look for them and all the different characteristics that go around this concept. So I thought it was a good idea to do a video, a dedicated video actually. So here we are. We're going to go through 12 points in order to address, let's say, the main issues and aspects. Are you ready? Let's start immediately with point number 1. Okay, so the first point I want to underline is the fact that AAA releases, and I'm talking at this point about reissues, because the majority of AAA records that we find today, produced today, are reissues, obviously, because past recordings were recorded on analog tape, as you can imagine. And AAA, we have to say immediately what this means. This is the Sparse Code, which means that the first A is the recording, all done in analog, meaning, as we said, tape. The second A, meaning that the mix was done on analog gear, for example, an analog console. And the third A is the mastering process, which was also done on analog gear and produced an analog master. This is the main concept of the Sparse Code behind AAA. And as I was saying, the AAA current releases, reissues, are high quality. I would say almost automatically. In fact, they do have, in most cases, the majority of cases, a high price tag, unfortunately. But if we take a look at the mastering, the remastering, all the different parts, the cutting and the lacquer, the acetate, the plating, the pressing, all the different parts are done carefully, are done with great attention and great quality. Because it is a handmade process, a work of art, I would say, an artisanal project, an artisanal product. Hence, each passage still today, somebody can be astonished by this, it's all made by hand, and you need good people, good engineers who know what they're doing. And when you have good quality tech and good quality engineers, you're going to have high quality products. And those are mainly dedicated, not exclusively, but they are focused, I would say in most cases, on AAA reissues. Hence, that is why you're almost always going to find very high quality products. Maybe it's something obvious, but it's good to underline this. Let's proceed. Point number 2. New AAA records. Yes, this may come as a novelty for somebody. We have current produced, made records done in a complete analog domain. There are very few. Very, very few. But there are people who are using analog tape, mainly. I would say that's the main medium to do so. And they create records that throughout the process are completely analog. Very, very cool. Not everyone comes out good, I would say. I have quite a number of examples that are so-so, but I love the philosophy, so I'm thankful to these artists who decide to go through this journey. It's not simple. It's more expensive, time-consuming, etc., as you can imagine. But this is just to say that we do have currently made releases made on a fully analog production chain. Very cool. Let's proceed. Point number 3. OGs, the originals. Let's don't forget, obviously, that the cheapest and fastest way to obtain a true original analog copy is probably to go on Discogs or thrift stores or the used market in general to find the original releases. Very simple. Like if you want a good quality release of Thriller, why go and get the MoFi, which is digital? Why go and get anything else of other releases? We will see why afterwards. But in a lot of cases, to go the cheap way, the best way is to get the originals. Plus, you're having a piece of history in your hands. So, not bad at all. This doesn't mean automatically that the originals are going to sound good. Not at all. And in fact, we're going to explore this in the following points. But it's correct to underline that you can go out and get an original copy of something. It's going to be 100% analog and it's going to sound great in most cases. Let's proceed. Point number 4, strictly connected to this aspect, is something that I called the second golden age of analog. Now, I have discussed this at length. Actually, I did a video, here is a link, where I discussed this starting from an article that was recently published. So go and take a look at that video. Just to summarize, we have a perfect combination in this moment, that's why it's a golden age, where the master tapes unfortunately are going down, they are degrading the sound quality, unfortunately, but at the same time the converters are having a very high quality now, and we can have excellent playback machines. Okay, so these three combinations merge together, creating new releases in AAA, which are, that's why we have the connection with the prior point, perfect high quality analog productions, analog records that are in most cases better than the originals. An emblematic example is that done from the Tone Point series, for example, all the high quality Blue Note series. Those are remastered from the original analog tapes that are AAA 100%, and they are in most cases better than the originals, because in the originals they had to roll off a little bit the highs, the ends was in mono, or they had to cut off the lower frequencies because they were afraid the needle would jump out of the groove and things like that. People had crappy turntables, blah blah blah, cartridges, etc. Now, also thanks to the vinyl resurgence, we have this incredible combination, and that is why the new AA releases are well worth your interest. So explore them if you haven't. Let's proceed. Point number 5. I just wanted to briefly mention something that I discussed in a recent video on new AAA records, new series of AA records done by labels who don't usually release audiophile records because they just rely on quality sources, but usually digital. So I did a dedicated video on these new amazing series that are coming out from Deutsche Grammophon, Rhino, etc., etc. Take a look. Here is a link. You're also going to find all the links in the video description as always. Let's proceed. Point number 6. Clearly, if you are interested in AAA records, in truly analog productions, recordings, releases currently done, you have to look out for those quality labels that usually are dedicated, in contrast with the prior point, dedicated to do this. Sometimes not exclusively, but mainly are focused on analog, 100% analog records, LPs, vinyl. And let's just to mention a few, there are many, but the main ones is clearly, I have to mention on the top, Analog Productions, which is doing incredible things, but also for example, Speaker's Corner in Europe, Germany, fantastic stuff, very, very respectful of the originals, and the price is incredible, very, very good. Also because, unfortunately, all the quality stuff coming from the US, AU guys have to pay the import taxes, which increases the whole thing a lot. So we're very thankful to Speaker's Corner and the alike. What else? I wrote them down. Groove Note. Love Groove Note. Great stuff. Not that many productions. Impix Records, for example. We mentioned the Blue Note. Also ERC. And also a newbie, we could say, in the last few years are doing great things. Not always. The quality maybe is always not constant, but very, very good productions, is Craft Recordings. I love those a lot. This is just to give you small idea. Let's proceed. Point number 7. Okay, now this is more like a tip to where you want to get the maximum juice out of your AAA records. If you can, try to hunt for a low number in the productions, in the pressings, usually limited editions, because you have the number written by hand or printed, whatever it is, and you can understand that you have a low number in the batch. Because unfortunately, sometimes we tend to forget that in the pressings, in the pressing plants, when they use a matrix, unfortunately, the first few records, I would say the first 200 or 300, are top-notch quality, amazing. While in the worst case scenarios, they go to thousands of copies, always on the same matrix, and clearly the last ones are gonna sound so-so, not that good, at least compared to the first ones. Not good at all. So you always have to keep this in mind in general, plus you can hunt for those limited editions. And for example, I had the pleasure to be a subscriber of some releases of Analog Productions, those series where you have to be subscribed, and I must admit that if you are within the first 50, the sonics of those things, already Analog Productions is, for me, it's great quality, amazing stuff. When you get those first numbers, oh mama, oh baby, incredible quality, incredible sonics. It's just like a different record, really, truly. So if you want to spend that extra money on that, that is where to put it, because you're really going to be rewarded. Let's proceed. Point number 8. A very important point, and something that unfortunately is overlooked a lot of times. Digital delay. Now, I did a complete video on this. I went in depth on this topic. Here is a link. Because unfortunately, we don't realize that in several cases, even though they are using an AAA process, sometimes the machines that are going to send the signal to the lathe to cut the acetate, the lacquers, has a digital delay instead of an analog delay, because you need a special machine, an extra head to do a complete analog delay. And I want to underline that most labels, audiophile labels today, do have that, because I was misunderstood in that video. No problem there. No problem with the labels, the manufacturers I just mentioned above, okay? It's just to say that sometimes people are doing some reissues and they call them AAA, and if they don't have that special machine, they surely have a digital delay that unfortunately was useful in order to cut the groove, the width properly, but clearly there is a conversion there. And this was happening also in the past. That is the most mind-blowing thing that I wanted to underline in that video. Past productions, which by definition are AAA because they were made in the 80s and the 90s, they had a digital delay, and we're never going to know that. Unfortunately, we're never going to know that, because obviously there's nobody who recorded, yes, this album was made with a digital delay for sure. So you know that the end of the chain, the very last step, was digital, while all the rest was analog. Incredible. When I discovered and I put into focus this, just mind-blowing. Incredible, really. In any case, I've talked about this also with Kai Seaman, the director, the president of Speaker's Corner, in a very detailed interview on mastering and mastering costs, mastering issues. Very interesting. It's not a usual interview where you kind of get annoyed after a few minutes. I think it's very worthwhile. Here is a link to that interview where we also talk about this problem. In any case, this is just to underline this. Take a look also at the video I made dedicated to digital delay, because it is an issue that collectors, audiophiles need to know at the bottom of their head that there is this. But I want to reassure, high quality productions made today, the main labels, have their machine. The engineers themselves. So no problem at that point. No problem at all. Let's proceed. Point number 9. acetate distribution. You have to be careful now. Now we are going to subtle things, the finesse. Because unfortunately, we must be aware that in some cases, especially now that all the pressing plants are congested and there's so many productions, everyone wants vinyl, there's no time, it's very difficult to have a quality product also for these reasons. And we have to pay attention because sometimes those AAA quality productions, meaning that they created a lacquer that is going to be used to make the father, the mother, etc., to print, to stamp those records. Sometimes, if they're made, for example, in America, they don't reach the EU, Europe, okay? This happened, for example, for Marvin Gaye's What's Going On Anniversary Edition. The ones that were made in Europe were sourced from digital. And this wasn't said, I mean, it wasn't that much known. I just found this information going around in the various forums. Maybe it's something not real, maybe it's something not true, but I found this confirmed from various sources. So, but apart from the example, this is just to say that in general there may be some problems with the lacquers, because maybe they're late. Maybe they have some problems in the shipping. So you never know. So sometimes, to cut corners and to stay online, stay on schedule, they just source that special edition that you wanted from a digital file. And at that point, all the rest of the AAA process goes out the window or flushed down the toilet. Keep in mind this. Let's proceed. Point number 10, prices. What else can we say? Well, clearly these AAA productions, as we said before in the beginning, are pricey. They cost a lot. If you think how much they cost compared to recent digital releases, things are getting pretty even, especially if you live in the US. Because, for example, the prices of the normal releases done by Analog Productions are not that expensive, not that much expensive, respect to a vinyl release made out of digital, a normal release done today. Unfortunately, in Europe and other places in the world, when we're talking about US productions, we have to pay these darn import taxes, custom duties. And that at that point, things change clearly. But in general, I would say that the prices are high, but not that much high. Which brings us also directly to our next point. Point number 11. Because we must underline also that these products, these AAA records that we are collecting for our joy and pleasure, they are going to go up in value big time in the future, okay? So you could consider them an investment, and a lot of people do that as an investment. In fact, I also did a video on record scalpers who unfortunately buy big batches of vinyl records of limited editions, and then they resell it of crazy prices on Discogs, eBay, and things like that. Here's a link to that video. That's a big problem, but it's a different story. If you want to take a look, watch that video. In any case, just to say that this is also a component about this vision, about this decision to buy an AAA record. It can't be that, I think, to motivate you to get that type of record. But it's good to know that you have an investment that is going to change its value in 5, 4, 10 times more, especially if we're talking about limited editions or jazz or things like that that are not repressed that often. Okay, let's proceed. Our final point, I wanted to dedicate the concept of Sparse Code, because after the MoFi gate, if you don't know what that is, here is a link. If I finish the links, you only have 5 on YouTube. In any case, you'll find everything here below in the video description. You'll find also the video dedicated to the MoFi gate, where we have all discovered that their productions were not analog. We desperately need some kind of regulation, a protocol, something that makes the consumer understand immediately what he has in its hands, and something established by a third party, not by every manufacturer. Fortunately, when they are AAA productions, in most cases, they're gonna put it nice and clear on the hype sticker, on the OB or whatever it is, because they know that people want that and they're willing to pay a little more to have that. But that's not always true, and sometimes I'm just looking through the liner notes. I discover, for example, that recent releases are made fully digital, fully analog. So it's a pity not to write that nice and clear. And it's correct to inform that it was sourced from digital, PCM, DSD, whatever it is. In general, we need a sparse code. This is just a side note, actually, on this concept of AAA, but I think it's worth to underline this. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this long video. Please add your points, your comments, your ideas on what is important connected to AAA Records, what can help the community. We are all interested. Thank you again for watching, and remember that, especially today, music is born analog. Well, guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.